Indiana County 911. My brother's gone. Can you be a little more specific, sir? He took my brother. Who took him? I don't know who took him. I don't know what. Sir, take a breath. Explain to me what happened.
And I looked out and there was this big red blinking UFO.
I can just say this. Something's going on in the woods. Something's going on.
They're not dogs. They're not coyotes. What could it be, right?
I had an encounter with a skunk ape, and it completely altered the course of my life.
I found a skull. I think you guys are going to want to come film this.
Put him out. Put him out. Put him out. Put him out. Put him out.
I just see it.
Sightings of a UFO hovering over a barn.
Millie woke up from a dream, and when I went into the bedroom, she said there's a monster on the wall.
They saw that the creature had run through a barbed wire fence. They were able to obtain hairs. They sent the hairs to their lab, and it came back as an unknown creature.
Bizarre Encounters with Shayn Orin.
What is up, guys, and welcome back to the most bizarre show on the internet. I am the one that they call Shane Squatch.
And I'm Orin. Am I still the big bad boo daddy, or have we moved on from that?
No, you're forever going to be the big bad boo daddy, bro. We got too many people on social media that are already calling you that, so that's one of those names that was unintentional but is definitely sticking.
Okay, then I'm the big bad boo daddy, Orin Felix.
Even Riley was saying it actually when I went to his little wedding thing last weekend. So it's Small Town Monster Fest, man. I'm going to walk around and make sure everybody knows you're the big bad boo daddy.
Well, hey, I feel sorry for them, but okay.
Hey, we can just say that that's what happens when you have too many allotments. You turn into the big bad boo daddy. It'd be like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type thing, you know?
That's not untrue at all. So we'll just warn them.
So before we get too unhinged, before we even start the damn show, we of course have to do news and updates, front of house and stuff, but I'm actually trying to do a new format for this, guy, so it'll run a little bit faster, because I know we've had a few people that say that we take a little bit too long in the show. So we're going to retry this new format, but before we do that, of course, we got to do the news and updates. That's always going to stay regular. First piece of news and updates, for anybody that hasn't already noticed on our feed, the name has now changed to Bizarre Encounters with Shayn Orin. And if anybody is wondering why that is, there's another podcast that just started up. They're 2 episodes in, probably 3 by now, that decided to use the name Bizarre Encounters Podcast. So now to be able to differentiate us, because when I look up Bizarre Encounters, it's like a mix between the two of us. Now we're going to pop up as Bizarre Encounters with Shayn Orin. The whole intention is basically just to be able to differentiate us so that we don't get mixed up and people don't traffic to the wrong show. So no big deal. We just didn't want to have to like rebrand stuff. So now it's Bizarre Encounters with Shayn Orin. And the other news and update, Orin, why don't you get him rolling on that, and then I'll give him the details.
And as we've been talking about for the past several months, I mean, you guys are probably sick of hearing it at this point. Small Town Monster Fest 2 in Canton, Ohio. It's probably going to be, less than 2 weeks away by the time this episode drops. It is June 28th. We're going to be there vending. So
29th.
Y'all, 29th?
29th.
Whatever the last Saturday of the month is, it's that day.
June 29th. But speaking of that, just because I think this is kind of funny, the whole time I've been posting on Instagram, I know it's the 29th, but I've been putting the 19th. So I fucked up just as much, and it's all the way across social media on all the profiles. So don't feel bad.
Well, I didn't feel bad, but okay.
Well, maybe you should. I'm going to shame you. Shame.
But anyway, 29th. That's Saturday, last Saturday of the month, Canton, Ohio. We're going to be there vending. Like I said, y'all come out and say hey to us. Maybe we'll get a beer afterwards or something. But yeah, if y'all are in the area, definitely stop by. Should be a good time.
Looking forward to seeing all you guys there, hopefully. And moving into front of house stuff, and again, we're going to streamline this and see how this goes. If anybody has an encounter that they would like to report, you guys can report it to ommencounterreports@outlook.com. No matter how big, no matter how small, I want to hear about them. Or you guys can, of course, get a hold of me through social media or use the submission form on the link tree that says report an encounter.
And as always, you guys know, submit your questions for Bizarre Inquiries, our Patreon exclusive, most of the time, mini show.
And if you guys want to support the show, there's a couple different ways to do so. Number one, of course, if you guys enjoy the show, don't forget to leave a review or rating for the show on iTunes or Spotify. And of course, if you guys leave a 5-star review, we'll read them on the show and give you guys a big shout out. Number two would be to go and check out the Patreon. Recently upgraded some of the tiers. I actually recently added a new tier that's $1. That's the ad-free / early access tier. And there's also new higher benefits for the other tiers that I had. Completely restructured it. So definitely go and check it out. Let me know if you guys like the new format of it. And there's going to be another exclusive show that I'm going to be working on that hasn't been announced yet, but there will be another exclusive show for the Patreon. On top of course, getting Inquiries of All Reality and Bizarre Encounters. And the third way that you guys can support the show and all of that we do is through the OMM merch store. Over there, you will get exclusive merch store discounts if you guys use the Patreon and you guys become Patreon subscribers. And if not, I believe that I still have Cryptid 10 active, and I will be giving out a special code at Small Town Monster Fest. So if you guys are planning on coming out, there will be an opportunity to get a new code that you can only exclusively get at Small Town Monster Fest. And if it hasn't already dropped by the time that I'm talking about this episode, I have a brand new design. I guess you guys just go and check it out on social media if I haven't already posted it yet. But essentially what it says is alien or demon, and it has this really cool half alien, half demon design. So I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. So check it out. Let me know what you guys think. And I'm going to keep expanding that merch store as much as I possibly can.
And y'all be sure to follow Open Minds Media and Bizarre Encounters on all the social media platforms. Instagram is where we're most active, but also check out YouTube and Discord and the TikTok and all that good stuff.
And every single thing that we've mentioned is all available in the link tree, which is available down in the show description. And how do you guys like that? We ran through the intro in 5 minutes, and that's just the first attempt at it. Next time, we'll make it even shorter. So, boom, there you guys go. Please welcome to the show, Contactee, Nancy Thames. How's it going today?
Everything's great. Thank you for having me. I'm proud to be here. If it wasn't for people like you, I wouldn't get the opportunity. So I'm very thankful that I get to be on shows with people like you that have a general interest and want good information out there. So thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on, Nancy. Like we were talking about a little bit before we started recording, Shayn's told me a lot about you. So I'm definitely curious to kind of pick your brain and talk to you a little bit. So would you mind starting off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Nancy Thames, and I am a lifelong contactee with interdimensional beings and extraterrestrials. And my first conscious memories start at around the age of 2 or 3. And every contact that I've had with them has been physical, which means face-to-face, in person, or person to extraterrestrial to them. So, when I was young, nothing in this world had formed any boundaries around me. So what I felt and what I experienced was all pure love, pure fun. And it was that way throughout my life until I got to about the age of junior high and just before high school. And at that point, the world had started influencing me for many reasons. One being I grew up in Tennessee, which is part of the Bible Belt of the South. And these things were considered, if they were considered demonic or they were considered a mental health issue. So I learned very quickly from my parents, who would just point blank tell me, these are not topics that you can talk about at school, Girl Scouts. I played a lot of basketball in activities and things of this nature. It was not allowed, family get-togethers. I couldn't even talk about it. Like, it was pretty limited to what we could talk about it within the family. If it got to the point where they really didn't want to discuss it, they would say that's enough. So, a process of elimination and not wanting to get spanked and wanted to keep peace within the family, I suppressed it. And I learned throughout my life that that's just something the way it is here, at this particular period of time, and living where I did, it was just not a topic that people wanted to, they weren't interested for one, and it was stereotyped. Mm-hmm. So, but all my life up until that point, everything was great. And I did notice that because of my world around me, that my feelings started to reflect on how I would interact with them. So they are telepathic. So everything I feel, they would feel it tenfold the amount of fear, tenfold the amount of anxiety. These are not feelings that they have in their reality. So it's not favorable. They don't like these feelings. They don't know what to think or to do about them. So in most cases, even with people that call themselves abductees, they will simply put you in a trance-like, you're fully functional and you can pursue and go through the experience, but they put you in a non-fearful state of mind. They put you in it's like a sedated without the medication. They can simply change you into a, like, oh my gosh, I don't know what words to use because it's not a bad thing, and a lot of people would consider it as a bad thing because our perception of these things at our age when these happens or first starts happening, or in our cycle of evolution, our interpretation sees it as fear, sees it as something, as a threat, and our brains really don't know what to do with these things. So it fills in gaps because when they do this to us, when we get back and we remember a little bit of the experience, but our memories are fragmented, very fragmented, meaning that it's spotchy. But your brain will try to fill in these missing time gaps or missing gaps. And it's not always the true perception of what really happened, but it's the only way because of our programming and because of the stage that it's happening. That's the only way we know how to deal with it. And so I've been doing this all my life. I'm 64 years old. So my perception and understanding has changed through different aspects of my spiritual growth, my aspects of my own evolution, my own awareness of higher consciousness, all these different things, but they have helped me along the way. So, I've had many, many fearful times, but it wasn't anything they were doing. It was simply me not understanding because the world around me was telling me one thing. And another thing too, it's never been what they look like. For me, it was the frequency exchange between human beings are at a very low frequency. We all have a frequency, but ours is very low. They are of higher frequency. And when we come in contact with them, we feel their frequency. And it's a feeling unlike anything on earth. So it's hard. And your brain has trouble processing. What is this? Is this horrific fear I'm feeling? What is this? Because it's a increase in your vibrational frequency. So
it's like an overwhelming feeling.
I have to stop and remind myself that, okay, I know what this is. This is not fear. This is a frequency exchange between an extraterrestrial and a human being. And I tell myself, this is not fear. And I push myself to go through the experience because I know now that I can experience it fully conscious if I'm able to control that level and understand what it is and know that it's fear, but it's really not fear, that it's a higher frequency. So it's a process, and it's not an easy thing for anybody to experience growing up. And a lot of people will say, I'd like to have that contact. Well, it's not something anybody can just walk in and do. For me, it took a long time to get to this point. And when I finally accepted what was happening and started understanding it and dealing with the fear aspects of it, then other things came into effect, like, so I had to say, okay, I understand what's happening. But then, like I said, as I did, then the information I was getting, it was hard for me to understand, where is this source of information coming from? Because I didn't grow up in a family that claimed to be psychics or a family that any of this stuff, it was all foreign to me. And I had no one to talk to about this when I was growing up. But so about 2 years ago, they gave me a Kundalini awakening. And when they did that, then I finally understood that the messages and information I was getting was from them, and that I needed to stop questioning the information and understand where it was coming from. And the beautiful thing also about being my age is that my two sons, who I witnessed them being taken for their first times when they were just small little boys. And at the time, that was horrendous and horrible to me, because I felt helpless, hopeless, because something was happening to my two children, and they put me in a sleep paralysis. And these were not the same extraterrestrials that were coming for me. I always have the same three grays that come for me. And one of them is a female, and she is a reddish brown color. And I am bonded with her. We are bonded. And I have great love and devotion to her, and she does the same for me. But the three that I saw in my early 30s coming to get my two sons were three short grays that are 3 foot tall, and they were gray, and they were wearing long robes and had high collars around their necks. And when they saw that I have the ability, I know when they're coming. So I raised up in the bed and saw them materialize in front of me in the bedroom. And I was in one bed with an ex-husband, and my children were in another bed. They walked up to me, pressed me, one of them walked up to me, pressed me down, and telepathically told me, "This is not about you. Lay back down." And so he pressed me down, I lay down, and then he put me in a sleep paralysis. So I could not speak and I could not move. So I had to just lay there, fully awake, conscious, watching them take my two children by the hand and march off. And at the time, I was devastated, very devastated. But my perception of that now that I've matured, and that my spiritual growth, my understanding of all this, and that it all, from day one, my birth here on this planet, has all served a purpose to make me who I am today. And now I realize they could have easily have taken my children, and I would have never, ever even known about it. But they wanted me to know about it. Mm-hmm. It did serve a higher purpose. And now my oldest son has the Kundalini awakening and has the same experiences that I have. Exactly the same as mine, gets downloads. He has a better understanding of where it's coming from. And, I'm not going to lie, has a higher IQ than I do. So his understanding and perceptions are really, really better than mine. And I enjoy the fact that he and I have each other to communicate to help each other understand, and to put the little pieces together, where for so many years I had no one. So I'm thankful that I can be there for him. And he doesn't, it's a different time frame, and he's in his 40s. So it's a different time frame. And here we are, the world is more receptive, where when I was growing up, it wasn't. So I am seeing major changes. And the way that I see this is not about me. This is not about anything other than that this is a evolutionary phase humanity is going through. This is about humanity waking up and finally understanding who they are, finally understanding true origins, finally understanding that there's things going on outside of the realm that we can physically see in this 3D world. There's life all around us, and we only have the 5 senses to understand our earth and the universe. But there is life going on all around us that we simply cannot see. And we're just now at the stepping point of this knowledge, new knowledge. And that's why I truly think humanity we are the disclosure. Human beings are the disclosure. We are the ones that the universe and our planet Earth and every living creature on it, everything in the universe has been waiting on humanity to finally understand who we are, what our potentials are. and what our capabilities are, and that there's a lot of our DNA that is yet to be activated because of we've been dumbed down by and programmed to be in this negative realm. So there's a lot of changes coming for humanity. And like I said, I'm playing a role in all this, but this is about humanity waking up and realizing that we have a place that's beautiful and perfect and lots of things to look forward to, and that we're going to become part of the cosmic realm.
Wow, that's a lot to unpack. I've got a whole list of questions.
I saw you taking notes the whole time. You're like, kind
of, I guess maybe working backwards a little bit. Something that I thought was really interesting that you talked about is how, you've been a lifelong experiencer of these visitations, abductions, whatever you want to call them. And your children have also experienced that. And this is something, we run across time and time again, is not just with extraterrestrial type visitations, but with paranormal, ghost sightings, things like that, how these things tend to kind of follow family lines and run in lineages almost. And I was just wondering if you had any thoughts on why that possibly could be true, and if you've come across anything like that in your own experiences and research.
Well, in my case and in my children's case, when I saw them being taken when I was in my 30s and they were little boys, and I saw them being taken at an early age, I was unable to do anything about it at the time. And I was in a marriage at that time that this kind of talk was frowned upon. So what I did was I waited till we got home from our vacation, and all that happened in Key West, Florida, by the way, at a Marriott hotel right on the beach.
Oh, wow.
But when I got home, I sat down and I meditated with pure, solid intention to extraterrestrials and the interdimensionals, and said, why me? Why my children? Why is this all happening? So I'm not one that claims to be able to call craft down. In my opinion, they are not here to impress us. We are intelligent beings, and it's up to us to figure out these things on our own. It's just like we teach our children, and they have to fall before they walk. It's a process. That's the way they see us. So we have to use our brains and figure these things out. That's part of the process of evolution. So what they did was I called them and meditated to them, and they came on their time, not on my time. They came, and when they did, the female grade came and got me and took me on craft and took me before what they called themselves a group of elders. They didn't call themselves anything else. They called themselves elders. So I went before the elders, and they were all 7 to 8 foot tall, and they were representing different races. And they were not humans, but they had some human-like features, but they were definitely not human. And they were the interdimensionals. Mm-hmm. And I asked them, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to my children? And they told me that I had made an agreement before having my human experience to come here and be here for part of an evolutionary process of humanity, of waking up and understanding they're not alone in the universe, that their lives were, anyway, it's part of an evolutionary step and process. And at that particular time, when I was in my 30s, they realized that I did not remember any of this. And I was like, they can read my mind. And so what they did was they showed me a vision. And the vision was of myself sitting as an interdimensional and waiting. And then they walked me through the process and let me watch whereas I was going through the process. And they were explaining to me that I would be going into my future mother, and then into a fetus. And they showed my essence going in, and then they showed me and explained to me that I would not remember this as I became a human, but they would be visiting me throughout my life to help me remember who I am, why I came here, and the purpose. So, and at that particular time, I still didn't quite understand it all. But now I do, since I have more visitation, and I've asked them to confirm what I have understood. And I do know I was an interdimensional being and made a choice to come and have this human experience and be here to be a part of this. And my children did as well. Mm-hmm. And we're kind of we come from a interdimensional group that lives on a mothership and basically travels around throughout different galaxies and universes. And we are from a group that is looking for beings that are on the verge of ascension, on the verge of reaching higher consciousness to bring them into the cosmic realm. So this is something that they have been planning for a very, very long time. And apparently they knew exactly what time frame this would all happen in. And that's how I ended up here. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, I'm not the only one, there's a lot of people that have incarnated here on Earth to be here to help raise the vibrational frequency of humanity up. And as we bring it up, we will be able to help encourage others to and show others how to raise their frequency. And through this raising of frequency, and as it expands throughout all of humanity, that's how we will all eventually reach higher consciousness. And that is part of the evolutionary process. And when this happens, we will be leaving our 3D realm, entering into a higher dimension. Dimensions are not physical places. They are higher levels of consciousness. And if you think back throughout our history, they've taught us that there's a back in time. It was like all of a sudden humanity had these huge leaps where we went from being primitive and then all of a sudden big jump into higher, and there, but I'm to the understanding now that was a leap in human consciousness. So for us, we're going to be jumping way ahead and making a big leap. But the difference is this time we know what's happening. We will understand what's happening. And there won't be, when they look back at history, they'll understand that we are the generation that really reached we're answering all these questions that humanity couldn't answer in the past. But we are to that level that we will understand that just because we can't see something doesn't mean that it's not there. In other words, plants, trees, water, air are all living conscious beings. Our planet is a living conscious being. Just because we can't see it with our eyes doesn't mean that it's not happening. It means that we simply cannot see it. Extraterrestrials and interdimensionals are not hiding from us in our skies. They are there. We simply cannot see it. But as we reach this higher level, our awareness, our vision will start to increase. And what people once thought was magic or trickery or odd paranormal phenomena, they'll start seeing these things. And it's not going to be so stereotyped as not happening anymore because it is going to be part of it. And the beautiful thing about evolution and ascension and the way it's done is just like our creation and just like any other thing that's done from above. It is done at a very slow rate. It's not like night or day. So that way you're not going to have people running around acting crazy because it's going to happen at such a rate that everybody will feel a part of it. And also it will be just like, it's so slow. It's going to be like, by the time it gets to the end, it's like, it's always been this way. It will not be a shell shock to people the way that it's done. And it's done with that intentional way for humanity so that it will balance out and be a beautiful thing and not a scary thing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. We've had a lot of guests come on the show, but I don't think we've ever had anyone, in such detail lay out these plans. And, we talk about higher consciousness and things like that a lot, but we've never had somebody lay out, all the levels to the plan as you have. So that's really interesting. Thank you for sharing with us.
Oh, you're more than welcome. All my life, I have been working with them and they have been working with me. And this is a worldwide phenomenon. This is not about Nancy Thames. This is not about the United States. This is not about any particular governments. This is a worldwide phenomenon. And my goal is to reach the world. That's my goal. I would love to go to the United Nations and get them on the bandwagon, So, I'm not trying to sell anything. I haven't written a book or anything. I have nothing for sale. This is coming from my experiences and from my heart. And there's so much misinformation out there. And I understand it. It's because we have been programmed since we were born, and it goes way back for decades. This program of being in a materialistic world, negativity, all of our news, everything, what we've been educated on, the truth. We have been denied our true origins. We have been denied history of our planet. We have been denied so many things, and it goes beyond belief. There's toxins in our air, in our water, in our food. And all these things have been done intentionally to keep humanity dumbed down. And what I mean by that is that to keep humanity at a lower consciousness, because these powerful elites, that's how they make money, and they also control our population by keeping us unhealthy and dumbed down, because they cannot make money off of healthy, intelligent individuals.
They make money off of treatments, not off of cures. So they make money off of treatments, not off of cures. And I mean, going into even the schooling system, like the Rothschilds basically said when they created the schooling system, they want people smart enough to run the machines, but not smart enough to revolt.
Yeah. You have to understand that this has been we've been dealing with this is not our parents' fault or our grandparents' fault or even our great-grand. This has been going on for a very, very long time. We should not be using fossil fuels. They've had that technology forever. There should be no poverty. There should be no diseases. When we were created, and this comes straight from source, from the extraterrestrials and interdimensionals, and who, by the way, believe in a creator source, and they all have souls. And when we were created and everything on this planet was created, everything we ever needed was put here in one form or another, whether it be a plant, a tree, whatever, because we are all one. We are all connected. And these people that have had control over humanity for eons have always wanted to keep humanity separated, because by separation, negativity, and fear, that's how they can manipulate us to do and control us the way they want to. So, and they know, and they've always known that when it comes a time when we all come together in unity, we're unstoppable. And they fear and dread that. And they are fighting tooth and nail to keep us separated. So that's why our foods, our toxins, our air, all these things are done. It's a control mechanism. It keeps population at a lower rate. And they will not know what to do once we reach this higher consciousness and we all start living longer lives and we all start eating healthier or living healthier. We'll realize that this old program and old ways are not only breaking down, they no longer serve us. And our technology is to the point where we have to make the right decisions. because in the wrong hands, it could destroy us. So we're reaching higher consciousness. And that's why the interdimensionals and extraterrestrials are reaching out to humanity. Wake up, look within, remember who you are, why you came here, what your purpose here is. Not the person that the world around you has made you, but the true inner soul self. And that will help you know when people like you're listening to people like me or anybody help you to make your own decisions. I'm not telling you to believe everything I believe. I'm speaking from my heart and from my experiences. What really needs to happen is for everyone to look within. Ask your subconscious to open up into your human consciousness. I do this every single night because my subconscious has been blocked. When I was born, everything that my subconscious or every prior life or whatever is blocked. That's part of our coming to earth. That's part of the unfortunate part of the package. We are here on free will. But our past, you've heard people talk about they remember past lives and all this kind of stuff. All that kind of stuff is blocked. So what I do is I ask my subconscious to open up into my human consciousness. And I can handle whatever that information is, because I do know that our brains it tries to shield us from trauma, shield us from damage. But I'm asking mine to open up, let me know my true self, let me know my purpose here, help me to know what to believe, when we're faced with these things, because things are going to be changing. Our world is changing all around us. It is changing. And as it changes, help us to make the right decisions and know what to believe in or what to do research and to give us the final say on what we believe. So it's a lot to consume, but it's going to be a beautiful thing. But basically, humanity is going to have a new way of thinking and a new way of living. And these are looking at things in a positive way. By being more positive, you can raise your frequency. By raising your frequency, you become a happier human being. The happier you are, you have no more depression. You have no more anxiety. And as you increase, eventually everybody around you will pick up on this energy and they'll want to be like you. And it spreads like a wildfire. And it's like, that's what it's going to how it's going to happen and what it's going to take for it to spread throughout humanity.
I mean, it's one of those things, too, that even if people aren't believers necessarily, like everybody knows subconsciously that the way we're living is not how we're intended to live. Like, it doesn't feel right. Like, people are pushing and wanting something different. So even if people aren't believers, I think that they're still going to end up contributing to this higher frequency understanding, and maybe the belief in extraterrestrials / interdimensionals will end up coming later just off of the unhappiness that there is amongst people. Like you were kind of mentioning, like depression, mental illness, like all these things are so ridiculously high, and we got to look into society for the reason behind that. It's not just that people are ignoring all of this stuff for centuries and all of a sudden like people are just admitting to it now. Like it's built up a lot more in the past few years because everybody again knows that we're not living the way we're intended to live, and everybody is miserable and unhappy. And I mean, even just living connected with nature. I know I've referenced this a few times throughout multiple episodes, but the whole concept that everybody decorates their houses with like pictures of outside, with forests, with all of this, it's because they have a yearning to be outdoors, to be one with nature again, to feel like they're part of like a, not just a community, but like an ecosystem community, so to speak.
Well, deep down inside, they know our connections. Humanity, you have to understand, everything has been done intentionally to make us forget these things, to make us not realize our connection with plants, our connection, but we are connected to everything, even marine life, everything. We're all connected. And whatever we do, think about this, whatever we do, okay, we play with technology, nuclear weapons, okay? Not only could that wipe us out, but think about this. It disrupts the balance of the planet and could destroy it. It disrupts the balance of all nature and all living creatures on the planet. It affects our oceans, our seas, our reefs, jungles, everything, mountains, seas, whatever, rivers. It affects everything. And then not only that, but it ripples out into the universe. And when it gets to the universe, that affects other planets, extraterrestrials and interdimensionals. And that's why you've heard this saying, as above, so below. Okay. Well, that's because whatever happens affects everything because we are all one. So that's why they do not like us playing with this technology that could wipe not only us out, but everything and ripple out into the universe. Then they're not going to let us do that.
So when you get into stuff like smashing particles together too, if you're talking about CERN, for example, or again, just outright splitting a particle, which is what's causing these nuclear reactions, I mean, it could literally have not just a ripple, but almost the same effect on the other side. Like if there are multiple realities and multiple dimensions, if you cause a nuclear explosion in one spot, it might be one of those things that has the same equal effect through every single reality that's layered in that area because it's splitting interdimensionally and not just within our physical world.
Well, it's like I said earlier that dimensions are not physical places. Dimensions are kind of like layers, like an onion has layers, like layers, but they're right there together. So like you're saying, what you were just saying. So right now, there could be a spacecraft sitting in this room with me right now, even though I might not be able to see it. That doesn't mean it's not there. And they have actually affirmated that to me. They have been in a room with me and to show me they would take a clock that was run on a battery that's not connected to anything like electricity or anything. And they would move the hand around to 4 o'clock, move the hand around to 4 o'clock, stop. And then when I start like trying to figure out what's going on, then they would do it again. They can be invisible. They can manifest right in front of you. They can also, another thing that they can do is they can say, if I'm somewhere and I'm not in a happy whatever, if they feel a need to talk to me and maybe something's going on in my life, they can manifest, but what they can do is take an image from my mind that I feel comfortable with. But they'll choose an image that I feel comfortable with, but they'll also make sure that it's somebody that I know is not really there. In other words, it could be Donald Duck.
So kind of along the lines of like a screen memory almost, like not exactly used in the same way, but almost kind of like the same technology.
Let's put it this way. The difference is they are there, okay? And they don't change their body into that, but the way that I see it through my eyes, because
they're changing your perception itself.
Yes.
This is kind of like the concept we talk about a lot when it comes to like these skinwalkers and like shapeshifters that people talk about. We don't think that they're actually physically changing shape, but rather, again, they have this ability to just change somebody's perception to see what they want them to see.
And another wondrous thing is that their crafts, the reason why we can't fly them, or their crafts are living conscious beings. They're a living conscious being, and their pilot, they're in their DNA, before they are ever born, they are designed to be a pilot, and that's all they do. So the pilot and the craft are bonded. They're bonded. Nobody else can fly that craft. They're bonded. So when the pilot, he or she, gets in, his or she consciousness meet up with the craft. The pilot thinks the destination, and then boom, they go.
I've actually heard this from a good handful of contactees, that these ships basically, the only way that you'd be able to function these ships is if you're mentally connected to them, because you wouldn't be able to physically move these things the way that they need to move.
And here's another kicker that most people just don't realize. Okay, you and I are, our technology, I'm talking to you through my laptop, you're talking to me through your computer. Our technology is a separate entity, okay? in their reality, because they are a billion years ahead of us in evolution. Their consciousness is their technology. That's how much evolved they are than us. Their consciousness is that's how they do everything. They can manifest things. It's how they travel, everything. It's not something like we pick up and carry.
It's almost like I don't want to say an artificial intelligence, but an intelligence that's created through not an artificial one, but almost like how we would use that type of technology, except it's actually something that's formed out of like almost like a hive mind consciousness of their consciousness. So it's like, and it would be like theoretically like the next step of AI, because the way that AI would intentionally work would be if you're taking consciousness from everybody and you kind of made it into its own consciousness. It's like a way more advanced, developed version of like what it seems like we're kind of slowly working at with all of like the Google algorithms and everything.
They had my son and I go to Mexico last September. They wanted me to meet an indigenous tribe, the Zapotec, and they wanted my son to meet the Zapotec. My son spent a whole day out in the woods with them because they understand their connections with the earth. They understand their connections with the plants, the trees, et cetera, et cetera. So my son went out with them and spent a whole day hiking and stuff. I'm not physically able to do something like that because we were way up in the mountains, up above the clouds, and it was very cold and rainy and without electricity, et cetera, et cetera. So he did that. But at nighttime, when they would come for me, that's when they would take me outside and they would show me visions. And they did their hands like this and said, everything is alive. Everything is alive. And then they showed me visions, and I could see trees talking and communicating, and I could see plants talking and communicating. So it was a beautiful thing. And after we got through all that scenario, then they wanted to talk to me about AI technology. And what they explained to me is that AI technology is a man-made tool. And they said, we as humanity need to keep it as a man-made tool. We created it and we need to be in charge of it. So as we go through and reach our higher consciousness and ascension, we'll first of all, we'll have to make sure that it's not just for certain elites to have control over, like they do our technology right now and our pharmaceutical stuff. You know, somebody else is making all the decisions, and they're overriding even our government. They're using our government as puppets to do what they want. So what they're saying is that we have to use our intelligence, understand we created this, it's man-made, and use it so that it benefits all of humanity. And they said that it would not take away jobs from humanity. It will create new jobs for humanity, and it will create jobs that we will call not jobs. We will call it service to self, service to community. And they will not be the type jobs that is based on a salary or any monetary value. It will simply be things that we love to do, almost like a hobby, things that we love to do, but it still gives us a service. And then there's ways that AI can make these things possible for us, because they will do all the strenuous, hard things and can make a lot of money just from itself. And we can use that so that humanity can live better lives, and we can have longer lives, and we can enjoy from our infant days all the way up to our elder years and not feel oppressed. Like we've never been free. We have always been a slave to a system of making us work, pay taxes, et cetera, et cetera. And by the time we get to the age of our retirement, most are either unhealthy and don't even get to enjoy retirement. You know, they never get to that point because of bad health or whatever reason. And there's ways that we can change that to where we enjoy what we do. We can spend more time with our families. We don't spend enough time with our families. We don't enjoy the human experience that we chose to come here to enjoy. We're a slave to a program that does not serve us anymore because we're understanding that this is not how we should be living. This is not what we want for our grandchildren or our grandchildren's children. We're going to be the generation that makes a change. We're going to go down in history as being the generation that made major changes for humanity, and also the ones that got us into the cosmic realm and learning how to live longer, better lives that we enjoy.
That's awesome, Miss Nancy. You've just brought so much to our attention that we've never had somebody on the show talk about. So it's really cool to hear your stories and your insight.
Hold that thought. We, of course, have to give a big shout out to some of our sponsors of the show and affiliates.
Y'all check out our buddies Rick and Hans with I Know Squatch. They're killing it with all your squatchy gear needs. And then our buddy Joe with Cryptoteology. He's killing it with all your webbable cryptid favorites.
And you guys can check out Snarly Yow for a fantastic line of beard oil, beard balm, beard shampoo, and body wash, all with an enticing woodsy aroma of smoky cedar with a hint of mint. And that's not all that the Snarly Yow does. He also does some other stuff, Orin. Why don't you let him know about it?
That's right. If y'all are in the West Virginia area, definitely check out some of the events that Dave, a.k.a. the Snarly Yow, puts on. He's an awesome dude, and he puts on some awesome events, and we will be speaking and emceeing at Cryptid Halloween 3 this October.
And moving into the affiliates, if you guys haven't already checked out the newest sponsor of the show, Oregon-ite, definitely go check it out, because Oregon-ite specializes in scale model pyramid replicas, EMF protection devices, and much more. And if you guys find some stuff on that website that you guys really want to get for yourselves, you guys can use code OMM at checkout to receive 10% off your total purchase. And moving on to all the paranormal investigators out there, if you guys haven't already checked out the Chattergeist, highly recommend that you do. It is my absolute favorite paranormal investigating device. Barry over there is a really awesome, really intelligent guy who put this thing together, and he's always working on it, creating new patches for it, and trying to make it so that it doesn't go out of date within like a year or so. He wants to keep updating on it. So now is the time to definitely pick up a Chattergeist. It's one of those paranormal investigating devices. You won't have to worry about going out of date. And if you guys decide that you guys want to get one for yourself, you guys can use our affiliate link to receive 10% off at checkout. And if anybody has any technical questions about it whatsoever, you guys can hit up Barry over there on Dimension Devices on Instagram, and he'll be able to answer any questions that you guys might have. And also, don't be discouraged at the fact that it's in pounds, because the company is based in the UK, but of course, while using PayPal, it will convert over to US currency.
And if y'all want to find out some more information about our sponsors and affiliates, that information is in the show description as well.
Now back to the show.
One thing I did want to kind of circle back to before we kind of start wrapping up, though, this was actually the first note I took while you were talking. You were talking about when you had these kind of experiences and visitations as a child, and how you grew up in Tennessee. I'm from North Carolina, so we're neighbors pretty much. But yeah. How things like this were likened to demons. And that's an idea that we talk about on the show a lot, is these issues of language. And in a lot of things like this, people are all talking about the same thing. It's just what we choose to call them. And an idea that me and Shayn talk about all the time is a lot of these people who talk about seeing demons, going back to ancient times and even, in modern times, demons, aliens, interdimensionals, ultra-terrestrials, whatever you want to call them, we're kind of the thought that we're all talking about the same thing here, whatever that thing is. Do you have any thoughts about that, or, the nature of the whole demon versus alien conversation?
I think it goes back to what I was originally, where I stand on this, and my perception is that throughout history, let's put it this way. Let me give you an example. All right. At our consciousness right here, right now, at this time, if for whatever reason we were to go back in time, and people back in those biblical days and when stories started being written, if you and I walked out in front of them, they would call us the shiny ones, because we are higher consciousness. So back in those days, what they were saying were highly evolved beings, and they misinterpret it as either demons or gods or angels or whatever. And that's what, if they saw us, you and I walked out there, that's what they would think about us. We would be considered the shiny ones. And the reason we're shiny is because we are of higher consciousness than what they were back then. So it was just the way it was their perception was different. They based it on what they knew at the time. And you have to understand, a lot of this has been going back so far. Fear was used to drive people in certain directions, saying things were demonic, saying things were this, that, and the other. That was a way of control. And I'm not saying that everybody that did these things, it was wrong. What I truly know is that it doesn't matter what they did before or whatever. What matters is we know now. Our understanding of these things are what we know now. It's what we do now, not what we've done in the past that matters. It's what we know now and using our higher consciousness, and the decisions we make and the routes we take is what's important now. So, but it does explain, as we reach higher consciousness, all these questions that we've had are going to be answered. We're going to look back and say, that's why they did this. That's why they did that. And we're also going to be more positive, and we're going to be a forgiving race. We will have to be. A lot of things have been done that's not necessarily good, but let's look at it this way. Things have been done, but it has gotten us to where we are today. It's just like who I was 20 years ago is not who I am now. But it did help make me who I am. So, I think we're just going to learn a new way of thinking and a new way of living. And it's going to be a miraculous change for humanity.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for sharing.
No more wars, no more negativity, no more. And you'll find as you reach higher consciousness, you'll watch the news less. People that are negative around you, there's no point trying to change anybody. Just don't associate around them, because you don't need to let them attack your frequency or the boundary, your positive energy around you. You just say, oh man, I'm going to go on and do something else. And that's part of our evolutionary process.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense to me.
It's not that hard, really.
It's like that tribe mentality, honestly, that, you're going to attract a tribe of like-minded individuals. So, I mean, we've kind of had that happen through time where we have these different groups of people and everything. But if we all become a positive group of people that don't want to have wars, don't want to have this, it's going to keep messing, and it's going to be, like an avalanche effect that as the ball keeps rolling, it's going to get bigger and bigger as it goes to the end, and everybody's going to end up getting involved in it because everybody's going to realize that, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you are. Like, nobody wants war, nobody wants death. Like, that's right. There's no reason to even have a debate about it. Like, nobody wants to deal with that kind of stuff. So if there's an opportunity to live in a world where that is something that's non-existent, any rationally minded person is going to obviously hop on that train. Yeah. One of the few times that it is good to be a lemming, possibly. So kind of starting to wrap up a little bit towards the end.
Okay.
I know that you kind of brushed over a couple of your experiences as we're kind of going through this. But be it that the show is called Bizarre Encounters, we of course like to dive into some of people's bizarre experiences. So if you had any particular bizarre experiences, contact, possibly onboard contact, anything like that you might want to possibly share the encounter/story of, please do.
Okay. I've got one to where I didn't at the time understand what cryptids were, but we went looking for creatures that had jumped a dimension. And when I say that, I'm talking about like chupacabra or a Bigfoot, or in my case, the day that the creatures that I saw, two different ones. One was like, I don't know, I call it an archon. It kind of looked like it had a body, but the face of it was kind of like a hand, only I don't know, I have drawings of this on my website, but it was sort of like this, like the face was kind of like that with extensions, kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but it was just like crying and whining, but it was, that particular one was on a different planet, and they were like, wanted me to meet that particular, they were teaching me a lesson. And for example, when I saw it, I was a little bit repulsed, I guess is the word. I was like, that is so weird. Oh my God, I don't want to go around that. And they're like, do not judge a book by its cover, blah, blah, blah. And they explained to me it was a dying race, a dying species, and it's crying out for help. And, so I don't know, they in my case, everything that I do and interact with them is to teach me some kind of lesson, teach me something of value that at the time I don't understand it, but then later on I'll go, whoa, now I get it. So there's lots of things like that. But another one was where I was taken to a craft, and it was a small craft. Most of the time I go to a mothership, but this was a small craft, and it had aquatic beings, interdimensionals, tall grays, Nordics, Palladians. I can't tell the difference between those, to be honest with you. And and there were some other humans there, and I was asking, what are we doing? And basically what they were doing, they had like their version of like monitors, I guess. And I could see like these heat sensor like things going across a screen. And what they were doing is they were hunting these creatures, is what they said to me, creatures. And they were in the wrong dimension, and they were creating havoc and fear. So basically, when this was happening, then they would find it, locate it, then they would go to it, and I simply observed. I did not participate in any of this, but then they would go down and get it. And that was my first experience around being an aquatic being. So there's a lot of things in our waters and things that necessarily don't need to be there too. And basically, we are an attractive planet, and a lot of things like to come here and check us out. And if they get the chance to, one way or another, to get over here, they'll come check us out. And it's just like Bigfoot. A lot of people talk about how they always see a UFO or something, like whenever they see one of those, and they're not letting them out, and they're not part of the same clan, so to speak. What it is, if they sense that they are in a place creating havoc or overstepping their stay here, so to speak, they will go down and get them and take them back to the dimension they belong in. But if a Bigfoot or something or a creature is not bothering anyone, staying out of sight and doing their thing, I don't think they really care, as long as they don't, but they're supposed to keep their boundary away from human beings. And that's why some of them will like to interact with human beings and stuff. And I've seen a Bigfoot before on a canoe trip. So I don't think that they just run down here and get all of them or anything. I think there's plenty that still live out here in our woods and things. But at times they will come down and get something if it is creating havoc.
Well, I think that was a great story to kind of wrap up with.
It was fun.
Bizarre encounters, and that's
definitely a bizarre encounter.
And we got to find some way to work cryptids into everything. And hey, your encounter stories, we figured out a way to do it. So.
Yeah, I saw Bigfoot in Tennessee canoeing one time too.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that story.
You're welcome.
It honestly fits into a lot of theories that we've thrown, because everybody talks about like the quantum Bigfoot, interdimensional Bigfoot, but we've talked about the whole idea about them possibly like walking through dimensions accidentally and not being able to necessarily get back. And I mean, maybe the whole intention is that they just want to observe people, because you think about like the typical Sasquatch motif with them doing the tree creep, all that kind of stuff. I mean, again, maybe it's simply almost like a zoo for them, or, if somebody went on like a wildlife safari, for example, that they're just trying to observe from a distance for the sake of curiosity. And I mean, obviously that's curiosity is why they come around people with bonfires and stuff. But yeah, maybe it's a little bit more a matter of like the same as if somebody went on a safari and they were trying to just kind of watch animals from a distance.
Yep. We're very interesting.
And kind of wrapping up towards the end, if anybody wanted to possibly get in contact with you to have you on their show, possibly share some of their experiences with you that might be very similar to yours, or if
I don't have a show, but I don't know. People have asked me that, but I have my Facebook group, Time for Disclosure / We've Never Been Alone / We Are the Disclosure, and then I have my website, timefordisclosure.com. So either way, and I'm in lots of different extraterrestrial, cryptids, or Bigfoot, or anything to do with this kind of stuff. I belong to a lot of rooms, so I'm pretty easy to find.
Well, we appreciate you making the time to come on today. It was definitely an interesting conversation, and looking forward to possibly having you back on at some point in the future.
I'd love to.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your stories and insights with us.
Thank you.
And if anybody out there is interested in being a guest on our show, or having us as a guest on your show, or even sponsoring the show, just reach out to us through social media. We're easy to get up with. Just reach out to us somehow.
And if anybody is interested in podcast or audiobook production services, you guys can hit me up through Open Minds Media to get a quote and figure out what exactly I might be able to help you guys with.
And as always, all the shit we've mentioned is in the link tree in the show description.
I've been the one that they call Shayn Squatch.
And I've been Big Bad Boo Daddy Orin.
Boo, boo, boo. And guys, just like us, we ain't afraid to get unhinged. We ain't afraid to be bizarre and strange. So guys, always, always stay bizarre. Bizarre. Bizarre.
Interdimensional?